And then, pertaining to the roster, it's like a lot of things now in college football, with the new rules, new staffs come in, huge roster turnover, and, the coaches have, as I understand it, the right to release players, and then obviously the portal and all that type of thing. So long story short, they've got a lot of guys from a lot of different places on their team, and, so we're just trying to piece all that together, a lot of new faces, and taking a look at the film and working from there. So as we look, push forward, basically, this week's like any week, our goal is to win the game. And then secondly, to improve and grow, see what we can do to move forward as a football team. So last thing, before I close it out, just the kid captain, Gwendolyn Klaus, is a young 7-year-old from Cedar Rapids. She'll be with us on Saturday. At age 3 months, she was diagnosed with a rare genetic condition, and as I understand it, most kids don't see their first birthday, kids that have this. So it's really a very serious thing. She is a 7-year-old now in first grade and doing well. And as I understand, anytime there is a flare-up, the treatment, her team over there, the care team at the Stead Family Hospital, has done a great job, addressing those things. So loves the outdoors, loves to golf, loves, being outside, and enjoys going to the pool and doing really well. So it'd be great to have her 2 brothers and her mom and dad here on Saturday as well. So it'd be good to be back in Kinnick. Certainly expect a good crowd, and night games are always kind of special, and good to get back on the field and have a chance to move forward. So I'll throw it out for questions.
Ethan Petrick, Quad City Times. Kirk, you mentioned that Coach Harris-Simiak is also a former head coach from Maine. So kind of a 2-part question. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned during your time in Orono? And what would be your advice to a guy who's in a similar position as you were 27 seasons ago?
Yeah, well, I think he knows what to do. He's done this before, and he's been around football. He's probably a little more seasoned than I was when I went to Maine. But, there are a lot of things you learn, and I guess the good news is a lot of the mistakes I made, nobody really noticed because they were more interested in the hockey or, some other things maybe going on there. But you just learn a lot. It's like at every job and every day, when you're doing something, if it's challenging, there's always something to learn. The value of putting a staff together is probably my biggest takeaway from that experience. And, I think that was one of the things I learned here as an assistant, the value of putting a good staff together. We certainly had that here in the 80s with Coach Fry. And, made a mistake or two in hiring up there. One of it is I think it's important to hire people that fit at your place, not just in terms of philosophy and all that type of thing, but also a good fit for where you're coaching at and having a grasp of that. So that was one takeaway. But it was a great 3 years for me. Really enjoyed it. And Kevin White, the guy that hired me, was a tremendous athletic director. So, you meet a lot of good people and, have friends to this day that are still up in that state.
Hey, Kirk, Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Insider. Are you happy with the downfield passing game right now? And I guess how do you get that to maybe click and be a threat to opposing defenses maybe more consistently? Well,
we're working on that. We're working on everything right now. And, we're 1-1 right now, so not happy with a lot of things. And, it's just kind of the nature of the beast. Scored 13 points. We'd have to do better moving forward. But, they're a good defensive football team, too, so there's a lot of things you got to factor in there. Thought we made some improvements on Saturday. We grew from week 1 in the passing game. It was not good the week 1. We talked about that a week ago. So, we'll just keep pushing forward and continue to grow. And two things going on there. I think, our players get more comfortable.
Tyler Tashiman with the Des Moines Register. I know we've talked a lot about just Mark's play in general, but there was a handful of drops against Iowa State. What are you seeing in terms of receiving game, tight end? What's your evaluation of kind of how they're playing on the other end of things of Mark? Yeah,
Saturday's a good illustration, and you just brought up a good point. There were a lot of things going on. It wasn't one player necessarily, and there are a lot of things I saw that were maybe a little bit uncharacteristic. I don't know if it was the step up in terms of atmosphere, competition, all those types of things. It's a little tougher challenge than being at home in a game that was fairly comfortable. So, but there were a lot of things. Mark dropped a shotgun snap, and that probably killed us on a third down attempt. We had a chance to have it open and hit it, and just a simple routine thing there. So all those little things really add up. Throw special teams in there, too. That's normally a strength for us, and it really didn't do much to help us in the game the other day. So, the combination of all those things, they all go together, and drop balls are going to help, deter an offense's progression, and that's not a good thing. Just a little, basic execution, and that's usually what the game comes down to, especially in games like that where you have two competitive teams, and flip it over and list some things on the other side of the ball too. But you just got to keep pushing forward.
Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report. Twofold question, kind of nature of Addison's injury, and DJ Vaname is going to have to, I think, step into a larger role. Maybe Thomas Meyer. I know he traveled with you guys. What have you? Can you tell us about both those guys?
Yeah, I'll start with those guys. They both have done a good job. We've gotten a much shorter glimpse at Thomas, obviously, because we only know him from August on. Basically, he trained here in June and July, but football-wise, saw him in starting at the start of August here, late July, I guess technically. And then DJ's a guy that we've just seen take step after step after step. He's a converted player. He's now playing tight end. That's what we projected him as. And the one question, especially he's a former quarterback, is he going to block? How will he block? He's done a really good job there, and he's changed his body on top of it. So, he's a guy we really feel good about. And now, due to injury, he's going to be pressed into further. His role would grow a little bit, and that's good. That's fine. He'll handle it well. He's done a really nice job, not only offensively but special teams. This segment here, so that's good. And Thomas will continue to grow. We'll throw more at him right now too, and then Addie unfortunately has got a Achilles injury, so they repaired that yesterday, and on the road to recovery.
Madison Ertz, Cedar Rapids Gazette. I wanted to ask a little bit about the UMass coaching staff, considering Herasimiak just came from Rutgers, coached at Minnesota. His defensive coordinator has Big Ten experience, offensive coordinator, was at Northwestern for a few years. Yep. Does that open up the film that you guys could potentially look at and evaluate, even though it's not the same players? Yeah,
that's helpful. It certainly is helpful. The first game this year was a little bit different because it was just, not that familiarity, but there's some certain DNA, and Rutgers, you could argue, Rutgers and Minnesota have a lot in common defensively, not carbon copying Michigan State, because that's kind of, spread around a little bit. So, there is some familiarity, and then it's a matter of, what wrinkles are they using that maybe they weren't using previously. And then in Joe's case, he's got a new team. So it's not like he was at Rutgers or Minnesota prior to that where, he was used to working with the guys he's working with. And you can see they're trying to build something there and getting guys just to understand the concepts and play the basics well. So we've been down that road too, and you kind of go through that anytime you got new players as well. But there's some familiarity there, so that helps. Yep.
Kirk, I can't think of many coaches who had a more inauspicious debut than you did when you were here, to go 2 of 18. Have the games against really good teams that you had, and then the injuries, Sam Aiello, all of that. What did you maybe take away from that, maybe intangible-wise, that you had to learn or you wouldn't have learned if you didn't experience through that? And how has that helped guide you to your career as you reach this point?
Yeah, so the Sam Aiello one almost broke me. That's the one that almost got me. I think, if you can survive that, the 2 and 18, if you can survive it, then hopefully you are learning. You got to learn from everything you do. And I think what you learn is that you do what you do. At some point you've got to believe in something, and you try to stick to your principles. We adjust them, not weekly, but, we try to look at what we're doing all the time and just see if there's better ways to do things. But at some point you've got to believe in something. And fortunately, I guess when I came here, there were enough things I had experienced as a coach that I think were just like non-negotiable. We need to be doing these things. And so we tried to stay true to those core principles, and, you just try to stick true to who you are. And you have to realize too, and I think if there's one good thing about failing, you realize that's part of growth, that's part of life. If you're doing something challenging, which this is certainly a challenging endeavor. So, the good does come with bad, and you got to work through it and see what you can learn from it. And as long as you're learning something, then it's not a total loss. And but if you're not learning, or if you, if it breaks your will, or you start, surrendering, then it's just not going to end well.
What were those 4 principles?
Well, just certain things. Just about the way we do things fundamentally, and just what we deem to be important in the program. just certain values, whether it's, what are the things that we really want to hang our hat on, and then, what are the things that are just, ultimately not going to, if you cave in, it's all ultimately going to get you, so I think that's just kind of, and, the basics are the basics. You show up with a good attitude, you work hard, you have a good, be on time, have a good attitude, work hard, and hopefully you learn as you go. And if you do that, you typically will grow and get better.
Kirk, this Jack Leto with KCRG. Mark has something around a 54% completion percentage. It's only 2 games, of course.
Yep.
In short, do you feel your offense is matching his skill set, if that makes sense?
That's what I was alluding to earlier. I think we're learning about him. He's learning about us. And, right now, grab on percentages. I'll go back to that first throw he threw that hitch well short of the receiver that, he's probably completed 1,000 of those in his lifetime. So, yeah, I mean, it's a matter of fact, but that's not who he is. That's not who he is. So it's just a matter of him getting more comfortable and us doing a better job maybe of making him more comfortable. And that's part of the process as you go along, And I think about some of the good quarterbacks we've had. I'll go way back to, Brad Banks. Nobody knew who he was. And then after 3 games, they did know who he was, and nobody liked him. And probably, I don't know if Drew Tate was getting rave reviews after Arizona State. So it's just part of the process. When you're getting on the field and going through things, you're learning as you go. And, my attitude is we look more at the big picture. There's 12 games scheduled. We're going to take it a week at a time. As long as we're growing and getting better and moving forward, we'll live with the results, and that's really all you can do.
I'm sorry, Matt. What do you mean by make you more comfortable? I know you don't want to give away your whole bag. Just like, is there a certain route, certain way you run things that would make him feel more comfortable?
Well, I think every quarterback gets part of the exchange, hopefully. He and Tim talk all the time. That's what every quarterback does with the quarterback coach and the play caller. And, yeah, I mean, there's certain things you feel good about and certain things you don't feel good about. That's part of putting a game plan in. And then, that's a weekly process, but also week to week, certain things become more and more evident. And you try to, if you're doing it right, you try to tailor-made things towards a player's abilities. And, it's interesting. I just saw a headline. I haven't read the article yet. It's on my desk in there. I think it was in the Wall Street Times. People sent me stuff, it was about the Steelers, tearing up their playbook. And my guess is Arthur Smith's got a playbook that includes a lot of things, and it's just you do what your players allow you to do, and you want to set your players up for success. So that's part of the process as you go along. Each week, hopefully, you're being a little smarter about things.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Kirk, I know you guys have been dealt a relatively interesting injury situation with obviously now Assen out, Reese Vanderzee, but I want to go back to the Iowa State game. It looked like there were a handful of routes on maybe 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. Guys maybe only running about 5 yards out. I'm just curious from your insight, is that the route concept? Is that maybe the receiver not knowing where they're at? Is it the defense kind of taking some things away? But just kind of take me through your thought process when you looked at the film on
absolutely. I mean, first of all, as you might imagine, if we need 6, we typically don't run routes at 4 or 5. Hopefully we don't have those calls matched up. So, a lot of times that's one of the big takeaways from Saturday, quite frankly. I mentioned special teams really didn't do much to help us in the game, and that is uncharacteristic. Usually we at least hold our own or get an edge there, and I'm not sure we did that Saturday. So that's part of the deal. What you're referring to there, I wouldn't disagree with that, or the drops. But usually it's a matter of people pressing, and, I've sat in a million meetings where the one piece of feedback you hear all the time is, hey, the receiver's a little short. And that's the John Wooden, be quick, don't hurry deal, in my opinion, and sometimes the harder guys try, the more, they lack out on that. And that's flip it over on defense too. One of our issues Saturday at times was leverage. And there was one play in particular I thought was a huge play in the game that we had defended, but our leverage wasn't quite where it needed to be. And it's a matter of inches, and those little inches make a difference. So, and that's the challenge in the game. The tempo's high. So can you get to where you got to get, or whether it's a route depth or, a point you are on the opposition, the guy that's trying to block you. And when you lose those little things, it opens the door for maybe an extra yard or two, and those sometimes can be really big plays in a game, and that's part of the deal. the other big play in the game was that tip pass. It was just a great play by Berkeley. He made a great reception on it. So, on one hand, kind of lucky, but on the other hand, great play by their guy, great effort, and that's part of football too.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. On Saturday, obviously the run game is the strength right now offensively, and this is the last non-Big Ten game of the regular season. How do you balance, like, the run game is the strength, but it's also a chance to, like, try to gain some confidence and some momentum in the passing game? How do you kind of balance that, I guess?
Yeah, our approach, just in general terms, is going to be, again, I don't know what's going to come up here in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or what we're going to look like at that point. But typically every game we'd rather be balanced, and that's going to be our approach going in, at least hopefully, unless you just, step on a landmine. We've been down that road too. So then you got to do what you have to do to win a game. But in an ideal situation, what we're trying to do is be balanced, and that'll be our approach Saturday. We want to run in and throw the ball effectively and throw in its play action, but also dropbacks. And, how much dropback you do or don't do depends on your team and also the game. But going into the game, we've got to be prepared to do all those things, and hopefully we'll be able to do some of that stuff again and do a little better. Just keep moving it forward.
Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report. Wanted to follow up about Dunker and Bo Stevens. Both were kind of
Yeah, they're
out.
fine.
They're good to go.
Yeah, they practiced 2 days now, right?
Okay.
So they're good. Yep.
Hey, Kirk, Elliot Clough, HawkeyeInsider.com. Wanted to ask about slow mesh. I know we talked about it a little bit after the game, but you feeling comfortable with running that? I know you guys only ran it twice. Like, what do you think about including that, especially while you mentioned Mark's trying to, figure some things out with chemistry and all that?
Yeah, we wanted to run it Saturday if we didn't feel like it's going to help us a little bit. And then how much or, how little probably depends on how things go as we move forward. But, yeah, we think it's something worth investing time in. We have invested time in it. And, unless there's a good reason, we're going to keep it in there and just see how it goes week to week and that type of deal. But it hasn't really eaten up much time. It doesn't take away from a lot of the other things that we want to do as well. So, yeah, we'll just keep it as part of the offense. And whether or not it grows or shrinks, we'll see as we go along. I don't know at this point.
Do 3 more questions, Scott, first.
Yeah, Kirk, I wanted to ask about linebackers because I know, Jack Campbell was off the charts in so many different areas, physically and mentally, and it all caught up at the end. Jay, his instincts were off the charts as well, athletically. Well, nobody's Jack Campbell, but he was as good as you could possibly be for the body he has. Your two guys seem to have caught up. I thought week 1 to week 2, their instincts were better, they're quicker. How are they progressing to where you want them to be in that position?
Yeah, same thing. We'll take that week by week. But so far, so good. I mean, we've point-wise, we've played pretty well. It's whatever it is. I think 16 points, right? I don't know, this in 2 games. But, yeah, seeing some good things. More importantly, how they're playing their positions, and I think both are doing a really good job. There were a couple times where Carson almost got he was out of control a little bit, Saturday. And he plays fast. So, just learning how to settle a little bit, as he gets closer to the ball, closer to making a play, probably help him a little bit. But you'd rather coach a guy back than, have to coach him forward that way. So I don't take that as a negative. And, we'll just see what happens here. But, yeah, I think so far so good. And Jackson Rexroth played quite a bit Saturday, too, and he's done a good job. Yep.
Kirk, pardon me if you were asked this on Saturday, but you get 4th and 2 from the second quarter, in the second quarter and the third quarter, both in Iowa State territory with a running quarterback like Gronowski. Looking back at the film, did you have any considerations you would go for that on 4th down?
Not in either situation, no. And we went through at least 1 or 2 also, right, and converted 1, I believe, or 2. I can't remember now. But, no, no second guess on the ones we did the other day, no. Given the circumstances we were in. Yep.
Hey, Kirk. Jonah Krell with WQAD. Overall, your defense has really limited the explosive plays. What has impressed you most about what you've seen from them through 2 games, and then what more do you want to see from them as well?
Yeah, I think, they're off to a good start that way, and points are the most important stat defensively. Sometimes getting off the field a little quicker would be a good thing, and give the offense, and that was a big part of the second half the other day. And we went into the game knowing they're a good ball possession team. They've been that way several years, and it ended up just about dead even Saturday. I think we had an edge by 20 seconds. But it didn't feel that way in the second half, just it was kind of we had it a lot in the third quarter, and then they had a lot in the fourth quarter. So anytime you want to get off the field as fast as you can and give the offense another possession if possible. But I think overall, we're on a good track right now, and it's like our whole team. The whole thing is to show improvement, growth, and improvement, and that's where our focus is in all three areas right now.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
Okay, thank you, guys.